I formally welcome you aboard to our brand new training, which is to look at how to use Skype correctly for hypnosis to gain maximum results, grow your business, but also grow your authority as well. Now, before we get into the content of this training, we want to lay down a couple of ideas just to set the foundation of where this training is going to take us, what it's all about, and what your expectations should be, and your skill set by the end of this training. When we look at hypnosis as a whole, and for growing your business and also growing your authority, as we move in and through the 21st century, we should be all well aware that technology governs our life. And as a hypnotherapist, gone are the days of having to just see a client face-to-face. We can start to utilize technology either over Skype or over by mobile phone. This training will also suit to move into the century with technology, so we can start to do more things with hypnosis than previous. Now, to also add to this, we want to make sure that as we get through this training, that like any other training, you utilize these ideas and combine them with your current skill set. And this is super important. The skills, the ideas, the concepts, and the strategies we're going to lay down through this Skype hypnosis training is not the all and end all. This is not set in cement. This is not the way you need to do things. This is a type of training that you'll include in the way you're doing things now to grow your ability as you move through. So the content itself, we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about Skype as a whole and how you can use it to grow your business, but also navigate through a hypnosis session using Skype or a mobile phone. But to give you some ideas of the negatives, but also the positive and benefits to using Skype or a mobile phone with clients and how that can help you ratify your business also. The sessions themselves, we have split up into three main parts. The first part we're going to look at in a moment is looking at session 1, which is more looking at what we call unconscious moments or hypnotic cues, because this is going to be super important as we start to use Skype for hypnosis, but also through our mobile phone. We need to understand how hypnosis is going to slightly differ than the classical or the normal, because we are using a different medium than face-to-face. Session 2 is probably the most important part, which is called the environmental setup. And essentially, this is how to correctly set up your client, but also set up the environment your client finds himself in, but also where you find yourself in when you're conducting the session. The last session is a unique opportunity to look at what actually happens once a client has finished with you, where the session has ceased and the results are there, what you can actually do for a client as far as suggesting to a client of how they can grow their results, but also get more from the session at hand. So let's look at the first session as stated. We're going to look at something called unconscious moments. Now, if you're not familiar with the Conversational Hypnosis Academy style of hypnosis, if you are, you should be very familiar with spotting unconscious moments. But if you're not, let's lay down the foundation of what spotting unconscious moments is. The unconscious moment, or more classically known as a hypnotic cue, is your client's ability to show you, either through verbal implication or their mannerisms or the way they are physically, that trance is beginning. In the old classical terms, a hypnotic cue is where you can actually see or hear your client going into trance. Now, fundamentally, a hypnotist, when they do a thorough training, is introduced to this idea. They're introduced to the idea of looking for these unconscious moments or these hypnotic cues that lets the therapist know that they're on the right track and that hypnosis is occurring. What we want to do with this training is take a little bit further and show you what to do with these unconscious moments, but also how you need to navigate differently when different circumstances arrive, and also when you're using a different medium other than face-to-face. So essentially the unconscious moment, just to give us a list so you can have in the back of your mind, is seeing, hearing, or noticing your client going into trance. Now, this could be classically like a rapid eye blinking, deeper breathing, shallower breathing. It could be a confusion, the inability to speak, the inability to logically think out scenarios or to answer the questions from the hypnotist. It could be automatic movement. It could be total eye closure. It could be total inability to move, speak, or even do anything because the trance is so deep. So we know something about unconscious moments. We know that by seeing them, it should be a good indication that the therapy or the style of hypnosis or even the induction that you're using is on the right track, meaning that as a hypnotist, this is the perfect clue without assuming that everything is going towards a result, which is either going to be trance or more therapeutic. Now, when it comes to using a face-to-face situation with a client, we have every opportunity to see these unconscious moments more clearly, to utilize them more clearly because the context and the scenario is different. But when it comes to using Skype, there's a couple of options and a couple of things we need to make apparent that you might have to adjust your own way of doing things and dealing with these unconscious moments. When it comes to Skype, there are two ways that you're going to be setting up your session. Let's look at the first one. With Skype, we have the opportunity to have the camera on. Now, the positives and negatives which we'll go through that work for you as the hypnotist, but you also need to consider in regards to the way you're treating your client as well. When the camera is on, there are a couple of things we can utilize in regards to spotting unconscious moments, but also we have to our advantage. Firstly, and the most obvious, is we can actually see our client. Now with Skype as well, you can actually have the opportunity to actually see your client but them not see you, or you can have the camera on for you and your client to be able to see you as well. The positives is you can see all the unconscious moments. And you're probably going to be more comfortable through your own associations, especially if you're seeing clients face-to-face, that it may feel like the hypnosis session is more natural because you do have the visual clues, but it makes more sense to your client to be able to see you as well. So comfort on both sides is definitely equal to that point. The negative to having a camera on, these are just ideas to keep in the back of our mind, is probably the most profound right here, would be that once your client goes into trance, all it takes is for your client to be wondering, can my therapist see me the whole time? Or am I going to do something silly on camera if my therapist is looking at me? And to reiterate this as well, the last thing your client wants to see as they come out of trance, which is normally peaceful, relaxing, therapeutic, and any of the above, the normal hypnotic cues we know about, is us as a hypnotist sitting there staring and waiting for our client to come out. And this could be a little bit intimidating, especially if your client comes out of a deep therapeutic trance and maybe come out a little bit confused and maybe wondered, what on earth just happened. For us as the hypnotist to be staring directly into the camera could be a little bit intimidating and could cause a little shock as well. So we need to keep that in mind. It does have its positives and it also has the negatives. The next part is with the camera off. Now, the reason we've actually formed this training together is being a training academy. The questions we get asked a lot is, can I use Skype utmost? But the second part is, do I have to have the camera on and what do I need to do if the camera's not on? Can I still use Skype? And the answer is absolutely yes. The only thing a hypnotist needs to do, and just like any technique they're learning, any language pattern they're learning, is to be flexible and to adjust their approach according to the context they find themselves in. And the context here is the camera's going to be off while using Skype. So we just need to think, if we cannot see the unconscious moments, we can't see the automatic movement, we can't see the relaxation of the shoulders or the relaxation of the facial muscles or the posture, we cannot see the rapid eye blinking, we can't even see if a client's eyes are actually closed. We need to put in a couple of extra things that help us know exactly what's going on without actually seeing our client. And speaking from experience, when I was seeing clients, 9 times out of 10, I would actually offer my clients if they wanted the camera on or off. And 9 times out of 10, my client would always want the camera off. So we had to put together something that I could put in place to make myself feel more comfortable that still made the session a profound experience for the therapeutic result that I was after. So with the camera off, what do we need to do different? The positive is there's no intimidation. And the great thing about this as well is your client's going to feel more relaxed, but you can also feel more relaxed as the hypnotist. You don't have to be as formal. You still have to be ethical and professional, absolutely. But it gives you more time to relax in a circumstance where you find yourself more at home, where you don't have to worry about your client judging you, but also the client doesn't have to worry about you judging them through a Skype medium. So there's no intimidation at that point. You'll find that you're more relaxed in the session because there's not as much pressure on you because you're only speaking now. You're not actually, you don't have the visual and the auditory cues, which is great for you and your client. The negative side is you cannot see the unconscious moments. But there's one great thing about unconscious moments. When you take out their ability to see them, all we